Alrighty, welcome back. I am really kind of like tidying up the last loose ends. Started to make a list of the stuff that I have to do. And one thing I did, I don't know if you remember, these things I put on the horizontal stab fairing. And because they were protruding rivets that hold in the thread sets, sorry, the nut plates, when you tighten them, they kind of put little dimples here, and then you can be careful not to tighten them too much. Anyway, long story short, ended up ordering from McMaster Card these 20 thousandths shims. They're 20 thousandths thick. You can get them in 0.016 or 0.02. I ordered each, and the 20 thousandths ones actually worked great. So I literally super glued them on here, but they only came in packs of 10. They weren't very expensive, so I got to order a few more. And what that'll allow us to do is, look here, when this goes on, those will sit kind of in between there, so you can tighten the bolt down and not deform that. I know, very petty detail stuff, but I don't know, I like it. Then I also ordered some nylon washers. So once it's painted, you know, you're not scratching them up. And I ordered a bunch of those for number 8 and number 10 screws. I'm gonna put them throughout, probably not the plastic, well, I guess once they're painted, you can use them on the plastic fairings as well. But the tail cone fairings and all of those other fairings. So I'm doing that. I have a little bit of a touch-up I have to do on the wingtips. On the doors, which I have hanging up here. This is interesting because that, oops, sorry, that bar that goes across, the instructions call for foam tape. And I guess another set of instructions calls for VHP double-sided tape. I'm pretty sure I used foam tape. And I believe Steve Cox from Clear Direct had mentioned that he had done the same and actually had the Lexan pop out in flight. So obviously that's very bad. So back to the to-do list. I gotta undo all those rivets that go across. I gotta figure out what kind they are, make sure I have enough replacement ones, and put a piece of VHP tape on the inside to help hold that strip in. So not a huge deal, but it'll give me something to do. And what else? Nylon washers, the cowl. Oh, I bought some different ones from RANS. They give you different size for here, but I believe 180s will fit better here when I think I have 200. So I ordered a bunch of 180s and some 220s and kind of trying to get those to fit perfectly. And remove the rivets from the engine baffle and do these things here. So all I can really do here is just trim them down, drill these holes out. Not a big deal, but that is pretty much on the to-do list. So I think George is getting really close with the instrument panel, which will be the next big step. And just waiting for that. And yeah, here we go. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but the first thing I did was anyway, I had a little piece of 1/16 inch, and I went around with a magic marker and I basically just drew a line using, you know, a piece of plastic that's 1/16 inch thick. Then I used the Dremel with the cutoff wheel to rough cut it. And then I used a little air grinder just to get the high spots off. And the rest of them, right now I'm just getting the burrs off of it. A little flat sanding stick. And then I will keep trimming it until I get it to exactly where I want it. And the way I go about that is I'll probably glue a piece of plastic in here and then just keep sanding it until it's flush all the way around. I find that, you know, it's a little bit of work to cut the plastic and glue it in there, but it makes sanding it very easy, and then it'll be uniform. It'll be nice and even, but messy. I found this technique to work quite well. Yeah, you got to cut a couple of strips in there, put some double-sided tape on it, but then you can sand it, and I haven't even like cleaned these edges up yet to exactly, in my case I used 1/16. I'll probably put some washers in it, but it leaves a nice sturdy round over here, and you can literally just a piece of sandpaper or sanding block or whatever, get it literally perfect without having to do too much thinking. So it's kind of self-revealing. I already cleaned it, but if you keep sanding and the dust is white, then you know you're sanding this. But once you get to the point where the dust turns gray or black, you're sanding the majority of this, so you know you've sanded enough. Oh my God, I don't know if I can live with this. I just went to take this strip and put it on here, and it doesn't fit. That's because these dimples are 11 5/8 apart. And these dimples are 11 1/8 apart. Why do they do that to us OCD people? This plane is never gonna fly straight. Oh look, the covers aren't even the same size. And these don't line up either. Well, I guess I'm not gonna measure them on the wing. Oh! What else did I have? Oh, those little fairings underneath. One was 1/8 and one was 1/16. Well, we're gonna call that character. All right, so that worked out perfect. Oh, look! Just when I stopped believing in the Easter Bunny. It is Easter today. Yummy. So I just went down, these two are two different sizes, not a big deal, they're just off a little bit. The holes are off, that's kind of like annoying, and I'm like thinking that I might add a hole here when I actually realized in the manual, or in figure 6-18 of our manual, it's got 1, 2, you can kind of see 3, 4, 5. So I will do that, I'll add a hole there. But first I gotta do some elementary school cutting. One more example of what not to do. Any normal person would just take the dimples, drill the holes, put in the nut rivets and be done with it. Now that I figured out these are off and these aren't even the same size, I went to measure these guys, so I put a parallel line, and that is at like 5 1/8. This one is at like 5 5/8. That one kind of looks in it, this one isn't. This is way off down here, so I'm actually gonna draw a little line on here and try and find a center point. So I'm gonna put my own holes and just fill that in. Unnecessary, but I don't know, annoying. So here's what I did. Besides drawing all over my bench, which I never would have done when this was new because it was so beautiful, but now that it has some drill holes, grind marks, and some character in it, it actually ends up being quite helpful. So I drew a perpendicular line, measured this, they're close. Basically just compensated the holes there. put these on the center line from here, whatever that 15 inches, down to where the two angles converge. These ones here, at first I had them from the center line spaced out 6 3/4 because I eyeballed it and I thought that would look good, but I didn't like it. So the inside one on the shorter leg, I have 7 1/8. Sorry, yeah, originally it was 6 3/4, then I moved this one out 1/2 inch to 7 1/4, and this one out to a full inch. This is the original line, to 7 3/4, and then this flange is about 7/8, so I kept a 1/2 inch in, so 3/8 inch out, 1/2 inch in, and I'm going to drill a bunch of 40s holes, and hopefully they line up when they go together. And what I did with this guy, I haven't quite figured out the position yet, is I cut it out, then I folded it in half, and I drew a center line on it. This is just a 1 1/4 inch wide ruler, kind of just rested it in there so it's even. Drew that center line up there, and that should allow me to be able to line, sorry, I don't know if you can see it, to line these two up and trace a cutout that's not going up or down. But first thing I drill those. All right, I clecoed this one, and this one together, and they match up perfectly. These two didn't, but then I made a dot, and I realized the distance is fine, but because of that one being a little bit smaller than this one, they're close enough. So I'm gonna keep that 1/2 inch distance going in on those. So they're close, but not perfect, but at least I think the plane will fly straight. And in case you don't get my weird jokes, when I said what not to do, that's basically what not to do unless you want to waste a lot of time or spend a lot of time. I don't know if it's wasting, having fun, so it's all good. All right, what I'm going to do now is, you've seen me do this before, I have 1/16 ABS. I just bought a sheet of it, and I take a 5/8 punch little holes out of it, drill a hole in the middle. I'm going to sand down these 3 high spots that we got, and I'm going to glue in my own spacers. And the reason I like doing that is when you tighten the screw, I'll fill in this dimple on this side, but as you tighten the screw up against it, it has something to grab onto, and it won't put like unnecessary tension on this little lip. All right, before I get too carried away with that, I'm just kind of like double checking that these holes aren't going to interfere with anything. And where I'm going to cut that cutout there, kind of looks like, I'll have to look at some online pictures, but it kind of looks like the front holes might line up right with those stiffeners in there. All right, looked at a few pictures online. Not a whole bunch to see there, but what I did is I kind of eyeballed the little dot is about where the bolt is, which means that little dot is about where that bolt is. So that little dot is going to be there we go, sorry about that. Probably at the thickest part, so if I do put that about there, then hard to say, but I should be missing this and that stiffener top and bottom. So I think we're good. Carry on. Alright, got my marking on this side. Obviously I need it to be the same on the other side. So I was thinking of just lining those up. These screw holes. Taping this together. Flipping that up. So the pen doesn't write. Transferring that mark onto that side. Again, that mark is the, what is it? Oh, it's where the bolt is. So on the thickest part of that wing strut. So now I'm kind of having thoughts of, I know some people just cut a slit here so you can remove it. I like the idea of it being removable, especially if we're going to paint them. Now I'm thinking of actually cutting 2 slits and having that center section removable. Kind of like I did on the spinner inside part. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's a beautiful, nice tight fit. Probably too tight, probably got to open it up a little bit to get it on there. But really happy with how that came out. And now I got to figure out how to be able to get them on and off with the struts attached. Oh, Curious George attached the strut. I think it's kind of where it sits and got this on, but I'm not liking how close this is to the to this rib, so I might do one here, and then one here, and rearrange these a little bit. So not a fan of the mounting holes. Let you know what I come up with. Of course, subject to change, but I'm planning on keeping this one, adding this one, and making a cut that goes like this. Because I kind of played around, I made a little template. The further back you go, if you make the cut right here, like I think I've seen some people do, or kind of how they mention you should do it in the manual, I don't see how you're going to get this over this without tweaking the hell out of it. So by having the cut back here, you know, you have much more leverage to open and less likely to kink that angled piece and be able to slide it in and out. And then I can use this, I can put a bolt here, nut plate, all of them are accessible. Then I'm going to eliminate this, and this, and put them roughly here, 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 and here. So I believe that's going to be the way I go. All right, take 2 for the measurements. From the center line, these are out 5 inches, these are out 13 inches. Same thing here, 5 inches from this edge to here, 13 inches to there. And now I'm going to fill those in. I'll just fill these in with CA glue and some baking soda. So if you're wondering what I'm doing here is I taped up the bottom of the holes that I need to fill, and I'm actually using a little bit of baking soda, kind of like a filler. And then you put a dab of super glue or CA glue, high quality stuff, on it, and you can actually fill the panels with it. Probably stronger than plastic, so it works quite well. If you don't believe me, look it up on YouTube. Tons of stuff out there. Alright, so I got the holes and the dimples filled. I got all the proper holes drilled. And I also sanded off the dimples on the bottom because I'm going to make my own little spacers. So, time to make some spacers. So what I did is just with the number 40 hole, I cleek out them in here, and then I put super glue on a little piece of tape here, and I take a micro applicator and literally just run it around the outside of this, and this works great because this way you don't get super glue everywhere, and it wicks it in enough to where it needs to go. Capillary action takes care of that. So it's a pretty good way of doing it. And this way the spacers get held on permanently. Alright, that's got to be the most detailed, time-consuming way to do wing strut fairings. So I ended up, because these were so tight when I put them on, you actually needed to put a little notch to slide over the rivets so you don't break it. I guess it would be okay once you open this up. But I cut this with a razor knife because I didn't want to leave like a gap from a Dremel tool or something, and that actually worked pretty good. So the idea is that it bolts out with the holes I finally selected on, 7 on each one. I filled in these, so once paint's on there, they're gonna be smooth. On the back side, I got rid of the lumps that were in the thermoformed plastic, and then I just put my own 16th inch spacer. And remember, this lip is 16th inch here too, so in theory, when you bolt these down tight, you know, they should be flush, and there shouldn't be any like edges pulling up or anything like that, unless it happens to sit on a rivet, but that's a problem for another day. And then the reason I did this cut here is because you can open it this way more to get it over the strut than here, at least I think so. And I can also add a lip on the back side of this that this sits against, and if I need to, I can even make a lip big enough to put a nut plate with a screw that, you know, to hold this part tight if I feel that's necessary. But for now, since the wings aren't going to go on for a while, this is the wing strut fairing video. If you want to follow my way of doing it, it's a good way to make an airplane that's supposed to take 500 hours to build into a 3,000 hour project. That's how you do it. But for now, real happy with the way it's coming out. Another awesome little chapter done, and thank you for watching. Happy building. Remember, this is just me doing it. Maybe some of the glue tricks were helpful to somebody. A lot of people don't know about that stuff. And thank you. See ya. I should say good night. Happy Easter.